What if a cosmic wanderer, bearer of the power cosmic and champion of life across infinite realities, suddenly found himself cast into the most unforgiving universe ever conceived, where his silver skin would reflect not the light of hope, but the burning pyres of endless war? Where his infinite compassion would be branded the ultimate heresy, where even gods serve darker powers, and mercy itself is weakness. This is the story of what happens when the Silver Surfer, once Herald of Galactus, crashes into the nightmare realm of Warhammer 40K, a universe where there is only war, and even the noblest intentions pave roads to damnation, a universe that does not believe in saviors, and where the arrival of one might just break reality itself. The planet Sanctus Luminara had stood as a beacon of Imperial faith for 3,000 years. Its surface was a tapestry of towering cathedrals, their spires clawing toward the heavens as if trying to physically grasp the Emperor's divine grace. Billions of pilgrims traversed the galaxy to walk its sacred streets, to pray in basilicas where saints had performed miracles, to seek absolution beneath stained glass windows depicting humanity's eternal struggle against darkness. The planet's entire economy, its very reason for existence, centered on devotion to the God-Emperor enthroned upon distant Terra. It was a world built on faith, maintained by fear, and defended by zealots who would gladly die to protect its sanctity, which made what was about to happen all the more catastrophic. For 9 days and nights, the upper atmosphere had burned with impossible auroras, colors that shouldn't exist, painted the sky in swirling patterns that hurt the eyes to observe. Across the shrine world's vast complexes, citizens gazed upward in religious terror and wonder, while ecclesiastical authorities argued fiercely about whether this omen portended divine blessing or demonic curse. The astropathic choir, those tortured souls who communicated across the galaxy through the hellish dimension called the warp, reported disruptions unlike anything in recorded history. Their screams echoed through the spires as they sensed something approaching, something that violated every natural law they understood. Something that should not, could not, exist in this reality was forcing its way through the barriers between dimensions. Sister Superior Marcella Thorne knelt before the blood-stained altar of Saint Drusilla, the Unbowed, her power armor scarred from a decade of holy wars fought in the Emperor's name. Around her, the Cathedral of Eternal Vigilance soared 500 meters toward heaven, its vast interior filled with thousands of pilgrims seeking shelter from the phenomenon above. Their prayers formed a constant murmur, rising with the incense smoke through shafts of colored light. Marcella's battle sisters stood vigilant at key positions throughout the cathedral, their bolters ready, faces hidden beneath helmets that concealed any trace of doubt or fear. They were warriors of the Adepta Sororitas, the Emperor's daughters, and they would face whatever came with absolute conviction. "The Emperor tests our faith," came a voice like aged steel. Canoness Seraphine Lyra approached from behind the altar, her ancient power armor gleaming with devotional inscriptions and battle honors accumulated over 2 centuries of service. Unlike her subordinates, she wore no helmet, revealing a face carved by warfare and devotion. One eye had been replaced with an augmetic ruby lens that constantly monitored battlefield data. The other, human and weary, still burned with unshakable belief. "You feel it too," she said, "are the wrongness in the sky. Something crosses the veil between realities." "Yes, my lady," Marcella replied, rising with practiced grace despite her heavy armor. "The prognosticars speak of a breach. Something enters our universe that is neither demon nor Xenos, yet bears the power of both." Before the canoness could respond, the cathedral shook. Thousands of candles flickered as one, then burned with unnatural brightness. The stained glass windows depicting the Emperor's saints vibrated, producing a sound like distant screaming. "It comes," whispered Seraphine, her human eye wide with religious awe and tactical calculation. High above Sanctus Luminara, reality itself fractured like glass struck by an invisible hammer. The wound in space-time pulsed with energies that had no place in the materium, colors that burned the eyes, geometries that wounded the mind to perceive. Servitors monitoring the phenomenon across the planet simply died, their brains unable to process data that violated fundamental laws of existence. From this cosmic rupture emerged a figure of impossible radiance. A humanoid form composed entirely of gleaming silver riding upon a board of the same substance, leaving a trail of scintillating energy that marked his passage across the void like a comet of liquid metal. Norrin Radd, the Silver Surfer, struggled to comprehend what had happened. One moment, he had been investigating a quantum anomaly that threatened multiple realities, navigating the spaces between dimensions with the practiced ease of one who had served as herald to a cosmic entity. The next, he had been caught in a maelstrom of chaotic energies, unlike anything encountered in his centuries of existence. This universe felt fundamentally wrong to his cosmic senses, saturated with a malevolent energy that seemed to twist and corrupt the very fabric of space itself. Below him rotated a world of massive cathedrals and desperate prayer, its billions of human inhabitants creating a palpable cloud of psychic anguish that pressed against his consciousness like a physical weight. But what troubled him more was what he sensed beyond that world. A dimension of pure chaos pressing against reality like a cancer straining against healthy tissue. Vast intelligences dwelling in that impossible realm, ancient and malevolent, already turning their attention toward him. And approaching from the galactic north, a hunger moving between the stars, vast and implacable, consuming entire worlds in its path. This universe stands at the precipice of annihilation, the surfer said to himself, his voice carrying through vacuum by principles unknown to Imperial science. Oh, I sense imminent doom approaching this world, and an ancient war that has consumed countless billions, yet still they endure. He had sworn an oath after breaking free from Galactus's service to protect life wherever it flourished, to be a sentinel rather than a herald of destruction. Even in this nightmare reality, that vow held true. The surfer angled his board downward and began his descent toward Sanctus Luminara. As he entered the upper atmosphere, his silvery form cast prismatic reflections across the sky, visible to every soul on the planet's day side. To the citizens of the Imperium, it appeared as if a star had taken human form and chosen to walk among them. In the capital hive city of luminous fidelity, Inquisitor Thaddeus Kraven watched the descent through sensors built into his Baroque power armor. Unlike the simpler designs favored by the Adepta Sororitas, his armor was a masterwork of intricate ornamentation and deadly function forged specifically for hunting the Imperium's worst enemies. Around him stood his retinue, one the sanctioned psyker whose face was hidden behind a mask of golden wire. Tech Priest Dominus Rykart, whose mechadendrites writhed with electronic agitation. And a squad of veteran Tempestus Scions, the Militarum's elite operatives, their hellguns primed and ready. Xeno's Kraven pronounced the word heavy with loathing, but unlike any in Imperial records. So, the energy readings are unprecedented. A not precisely Lord Inquisitors counter the Tech Priest, his voice a blend of organic breath and Voxcaster static. Amiospec's readings indicate the entity's material composition violates multiple laws of atomic structure. It registers simultaneously as matter and energy, yet neither classification is accurate. The Omnissiah's blessed logic finds no pattern to categorize it. It cannot perceive it clearly, whispered Esme Vaughn, her voice unnervingly childlike despite her advanced age. Sight slides around it like water around stone. It is anathema to the warp, yet commands energies that mimic its capricious nature. A paradox given form. Kraven's hand rested on the ornate bolt pistol at his hip. The Emperor's tarot showed the star card inverted before this entity's arrival. Change, disruption, the overturning of established order. He activated his armor's Vox unit, connecting to the Battle Sisters command frequency. A Canoness Lyra, the entity descends toward the Grand Plaza of Illumination. Deploy your sisters to secure the area. Lethal force is authorized if the Xenos demonstrates any hostile intent. We shall not fail. Inquisitor, came the Canoness's immediate reply. The Emperor's mercy shall be swift and absolute if this trespasser threatens his domain. The Silver Surfer felt the world's gravitational field cradle his form as he descended through wispy clouds toward the largest population center. His cosmic senses detected weapons being readied, defense systems activating, and a spike of fear rippling through the collective consciousness of billions below. He understood their reaction perfectly. In most civilizations, the arrival of something unknown from the heavens rarely heralded good tidings, yet he also sensed something else mixed with the fear. Hope, a strange reverence, a willingness to believe in divine intervention that he had rarely encountered. These humans lived in such darkness that they yearned desperately for any light, even as their leaders prepared to extinguish it. The surfer slowed his descent, hovering 100 meters above a vast stone plaza surrounded by cathedral spires and statuary depicting human figures of impossible heroism and suffering. Thousands of citizens had gathered despite the efforts of armored soldiers to establish a perimeter. They gazed up at him, some falling to their knees in prayer, others making the sign of the Aquila across their chest, still others weeping openly at what they perceived as a miracle. A people of this world, the surfer spoke, his voice carried to every ear by carefully modulated cosmic energy. I come in peace. I am a traveler from beyond your universe, brought here by forces I do not fully understand. I mean, you know, harm. His words echoed across the plaza, translated perfectly into Gothic by the power cosmic flowing through his form. The response was immediate and chaotic. More prayers, screams of religious ecstasy, cries of heresy and damnation intermingling in a cacophony of human emotion. The soldiers tightened their grips on weapons that the surfer's awareness identified as primitive but deadly projectile launchers enhanced with small explosive charges. The atmosphere crackled with tension, fear, and desperate hope, all competing for dominance. Before the situation could escalate into violence, a new contingent entered the plaza. Women in ornate power armor of crimson and black, bearing weapons that hummed with destructive potential far beyond their size. They moved with the absolute confidence of warriors who had never known defeat, only martyrdom or victory. Their leader, distinguished by her elaborate headdress and ancient battle scars, stepped forward with the authority of one accustomed to absolute obedience. Nylian entity, she called up to him, her voice amplified by her armor's systems. I am Canoness Seraphine Lyra of the Order of the Bloody Thorn. By the authority of His Divine Majesty, the God Emperor of mankind, you are commanded to surrender yourself for examination. Comply immediately or face righteous annihilation. The surfer perceived the absolute conviction in her mind, the unshakable belief that her cause was just and her deity's authority absolute. He had encountered religious zealotry across countless worlds and civilizations, but rarely with such institutional power behind it. This was not the faith of the desperate, but the certainty of those who wielded faith as a weapon. I mean no harm to you or your people, he replied, lowering himself until he hovered just 10 meters above the ground. I seek only to understand this reality and find my way home. Perhaps we can aid one another. I sense a great danger approaching this world, something that will consume all life if not opposed. The Canoness's augmetic eye whirred as she studied him, analyzing his every word and gesture for signs of deception, where nature is anathema to the Imperial truth. No alien entity may freely walk among humanity by the Emperor's own decree. You will submit to the Inquisition's authority, or you will be destroyed. There are no other options. The surfer sensed the fingers tightening on triggers, the order forming in the Canoness's mind a split second before she would speak it. With a gesture so subtle the human eye could barely detect it, he erected an invisible barrier of cosmic energy around himself. Just as she barked, "Open fire!" Open fire! A bolter shells erupted from 24 weapons simultaneously, streaking toward the hovering silver figure. Each bolt was a marvel of Imperial engineering, mass reactive armor-piercing ammunition designed to penetrate a target before detonating in a devastating explosion. Against most foes, even a single hit could be crippling or fatal. Against the Silver Surfer, they were nothing. Each shell impacted the invisible barrier and simply stopped, suspended in midair as if frozen in time, their propellant exhausted, their warheads inert. The plaza fell silent as citizens and sisters alike stared in shock at the hovering constellation of deadly projectiles now rendered harmless by powers beyond their comprehension. I did not come here to fight, the surfer said, his tone unchanged despite the attack. With another subtle gesture, the bolter shells disintegrated into harmless metallic dust that spiraled down to the flagstones below like silver snow. But I will not allow harm to come to me or to those I might protect. He paused, letting the weight of his next words settle. I sense a hunger in the void, drawing nearer with each moment, a swarm consciousness that has devoured entire civilizations. Before Canoness Lyra could respond, a new figure pushed through the line of battle sisters. Unlike the others, this human wore armor of different design, black and ornate, with symbols of authority that even the canonists seemed to respect. Inquisitor, the surfer realized, reading the surface thoughts around him. One of the Emperor's most feared servants. Fascinating, said Inquisitor Kraven, studying the surfer through the lenses of his ornate helmet. You claim knowledge of a threat to this world. Elaborate, and perhaps your execution can be postponed. The Silver Surfer focused his cosmic awareness outward, beyond the atmosphere of Sanctus Luminara, into the cold void between stars. What he sensed there confirmed his earlier foreboding. Something approaches from the galactic north. Free, a swarm consciousness of immense proportions driven by hunger and evolutionary imperative. It has devoured worlds before and will not stop until this one meets the same fate. Your instruments cannot detect it yet, but I sense the psychic shadow it casts upon the void. It will be upon you within one of your planetary rotations. Kraven and the canonists exchanged glances heavy with unspoken communication. The Inquisitor's hand moved to a communication device at his belt. Orbital stations report nothing unusual in that vector, he said carefully, watching the surfer for any sign of deception. Pyre, your instruments are insufficient, the surfer replied. The entity cloaks itself from conventional detection through biological mechanisms evolved over millions of years. But I can sense the distortion it creates in the fabric of space-time, the way it draws psychic energy from the dimension you call the warp. Inquisitor, interrupted Tech Priest Rykart, his voice buzzing with static urgency. Astropathic relay from the Thetis system, outer cordon. They report biomass anomalies consistent with Tyranid vanguard organisms. Estimated arrival at Sanctus Luminara, 18 to 20 standard hours. Kraven's posture stiffened, and the surfer felt a wave of genuine fear ripple through every human consciousness in the plaza. The Tyranids, the Inquisitor said, and that single word ignited panic where there had been religious awe. The surfer caught fragmentary images from the minds around him. Chitinous monsters, living weapons, worlds stripped to barren rock, billions consumed to feed an endless hunger. I can help you defend against this threat, the surfer offered, understanding now the true danger. He had faced cosmic predators before, entities that consumed worlds to sustain themselves. My power may tip the balance in your favor. The Imperium of Man does not require alien assistance, the canonist declared, though her tone lacked its former certainty. The God Emperor protects his faithful. We have faced the great Devourer before and endured. Inquisitor Kraven raised a hand, silencing her. A canonist Lyra, a word in private. The two Imperial leaders stepped aside, their heated discussion just beyond normal human hearing, but not beyond the surfer's enhanced senses. Phrase. This Xenos possesses power beyond our immediate capacity to contain, Kraven said quietly. If it speaks truly about the Tyranid splinter fleet, we face extinction within days. The planetary defense forces are still recovering from the Orc incursion in the Hadras belt. Our astropathic distress calls won't bring reinforcements in time. The nearest battle group is weeks away at best speed. You cannot seriously consider accepting its aid. Lyra hissed, her religious conviction warring with tactical reality. The taint of the alien, it's preferable to extinction, Kraven finished. The Imperium has made such pragmatic choices before when necessary. If this entity can help us survive long enough for reinforcements to arrive, I am willing to postpone its execution. Once the Tyranid threat is eliminated, we can revisit the question of its disposal. The canoness's face contorted with religious outrage, but centuries of obedience to Imperial hierarchy won out. Hierarchy won Inquisitor. But my sisters will be watching for the first sign of treachery. At the first deviation from cooperation, we will end it, regardless of the consequences. They returned to where the Silver Surfer continued to hover, unmoving despite the weapons still trained on him from all directions. Entity, Kraven addressed him formally. The Imperium provisionally accepts your assistance against the Xenos threat. You will be monitored at all times. Any action deemed hostile to Imperial interests will result in immediate termination. Is this understood? The Silver Surfer nodded once, a simple human gesture that seemed oddly incongruous with his celestial appearance. I understand. My name is Norrin Radd, though many know me as the Silver Surfer. I require access to your orbital defenses and knowledge of this enemy's tactics. If we are to survive, we must coordinate perfectly. Granted, under supervision, Kraven replied. A tech priest Rykart will provide you with tactical data. Canoness, deploy your sisters to defensive positions throughout the primary population centers. If the Xenos breach our orbital defenses, the streets will become our battlefield. He paused, studying the surfer. The Emperor's mercy to us all if this proves misguided. As night fell over Sanctus Luminara, emergency preparations accelerated across the planet. Warning sirens wailed through hive cities and shrine complexes. Planetary defense forces mobilized, though all understood the grim truth. Against a Tyranid splinter fleet, conventional defenses would merely delay the inevitable. The planet's lone battlecruiser, the Eternal Vigilance, adjusted its orbit to maximize defensive coverage, its ancient machine's spirits awakening to full combat readiness for the first time in 2 centuries. Within the Planetary Defense Command, the Silver Surfer stood before a hololithic display of the system, studying the approaches from which the Tyranid fleet would arrive. Around him stood Imperial officials maintaining a respectful distance, their fear and fascination palpable to his cosmic awareness. He could sense their thoughts, their doubts, their desperate hope that this impossible situation might somehow resolve in humanity's favor. Your orbital defenses are positioned inefficiently, the Surfer observed, gesturing to the display. The Tyranids will exploit this gap in your coverage here, along the ecliptic plane. They sacrifice thousands of smaller organisms to draw fire from key positions, then strike with their largest creatures where your coverage is weakest. Tech Priest Rykart stepped forward, mechadendrites twitching with agitation, with possible goo. The defense grid was calibrated according to standard Adeptus Mechanicus protocols established during the Tzeentch sector reclamation. The machine spirits would not permit such an oversight. Your protocols do not account for an enemy that thinks as a single organism, the Surfer replied patiently. They adapt with each encounter, learning from every engagement. What worked against them before will not work again. They will use this weakness. He indicated several points on the hololithic display. If you recalibrate your defense grid to cover these vectors, you can minimize casualties during the initial assault. The alien speaks sense, admitted Lord Admiral Tiberius Halt, his weathered face grim beneath his formal naval cap. But during the McCraig incursion, Hive Fleet Behemoth employed precisely such tactics. We lost 3 battle groups because we underestimated their adaptive capabilities. Megos, begin the recalibration. The tech priest made the sign of the cog, muttering binary prayers of forgiveness to the Omnissiah as he reluctantly began the adjustments. The Surfer turned his attention to Inquisitor Kraven, who had been silently observing the exchange. Your civilization faces extinction on multiple fronts, the Surfer said quietly. I have glimpsed the truth of this universe through my cosmic senses. The entities you call Tyranids are but one predator among many. The barrier between reality and the chaos dimension grows thinner with each passing year. Ancient enemies awaken from cosmic slumber. Corruption spreads from within. How has humanity survived so long? Kraven's expression remained hidden behind his ornate helmet, but his voice carried a weight of terrible knowledge, a through sacrifice beyond measure. Through the vigilance of the God Emperor enthroned upon Terra. Through faith and fire and the extermination of all that threatens mankind's dominion. His armored hand rested on the pommel of a power sword at his hip. Do not mistake temporary cooperation for acceptance. Xenos, Oz. When this threat passes, the question of your existence will be revisited with full inquisitorial authority. The Surfer had heard similar threats across thousands of worlds and millions of years. They did not concern him. He reached the first orbital defense platform, a massive Imperial construction bristling with lance batteries and torpedo tubes, its hull adorned with prayers and purity seals accumulated over centuries of service. The mortal crew gaped at his approach, then scrambled to battle stations as proximity alarms wailed throughout the installation. Through their communication systems, Admiral Halt's voice crackled with authority. All stations, the Silver Entity is to be granted provisional operational clearance. Maintain target lock but withhold fire unless directly ordered. It is temporarily an asset of the Imperium. The Surfer hovered above the primary lance battery, studying its mechanisms with his cosmic senses. Primitive by the standards of many civilizations he had visited, yet possessing a brutal efficiency born of forgotten knowledge and religious reverence for machinery. He placed his silver hand upon the main capacitor housing, allowing a measure of the power cosmic to flow into the ancient systems. What is happening? Demanded the platform's commander through an external vox. Our machine spirits report unprecedented power surges. The energy readings are off all calibrated scales. Ye have enhanced your weapons, the surfer explained, his voice emanating from their communication systems without any transmission being sent. They will now penetrate the psychic shields the Tyranids project around their larger vessels. Direct your fire toward the node ships, the ones with elongated dorsal structures. They coordinate the smaller bioforms and serve as synaptic relay points for the Hive Mind. For the next hour, the Silver Surfer moved from station to station throughout Sanctus Luminara's orbital defense grid, temporarily augmenting each with a fraction of his cosmic power. From the planet below, his path appeared as a silver comet arcing between the stars, leaving trails of iridescent energy in its wake. To many of the faithful, watching from cathedral plazas, it seemed as if the Emperor had sent a celestial guardian to protect them in their hour of need. To the more cynical among the Imperial authorities, it demonstrated a power that no alien entity should rightfully possess, a strategic asset that would need to be controlled or eliminated once the immediate crisis passed. Aboard the battlecruiser Eternal Vigilance, Lord Admiral Halt watched tactical displays with increasing astonishment as enhanced lance batteries tore through Tyranid bioships that should have been able to absorb such punishment with their adaptive armor and regenerative capabilities. What does this? By the Golden Throne. It works, he muttered, watching another node ship disintegrate under coordinated fire. The Xenos vessels are suffering unprecedented casualties. Their advance is slowing. You note that the alien has not directly engaged the enemy, observed Inquisitor Kraven, who had transferred to the cruiser's bridge to better monitor the situation. It enhances our defenses, but refrains from offensive action. Curious. Restraint. EA tactical error, said Canoness Lyra, who stood rigidly at the Inquisitor's side. It squanders its advantage when it could be destroying their fleet wholesale. Or it conserves its strength for a greater threat, countered Kraven. Remember, it predicted this assault when our most sensitive augur arrays detected nothing. It may perceive aspects of the conflict hidden to us, threats we cannot yet see. The surfer's voice suddenly emanated from the bridge's communication array. Though no transmission had been received through conventional channels, the Vanguard is a distraction. The main fleet approaches from the system's southern pole, using your star's radiation to mask their bio-signatures. They will arrive within minutes. A massive hive ship leads them, larger than anything you have faced before. The bridge erupted into activity as officers rushed to reorient sensors and weapons toward the new threat vector. "A southern polar approach confirmed," shouted the sensor officer, his voice cracking with stress. "A massive biomass readings consistent with a hive ship and escort organisms. Fleet strength estimates. Emperor preserve us, it's 3 times larger than predicted." The tactical display shifted to show a nightmarish sight, a Tyranid vessel larger than the Eternal Vigilance itself, resembling nothing so much as a leviathan from the depths of oceanic hell, surrounded by hundreds of smaller organisms. It pulsed with malevolent life, psychic energies crackling along its chitinous hull like unholy lightning. "All batteries, redirect fire to new coordinates," ordered Admiral Halt, his voice steady despite the horror unfolding before him. "Prepare Nova Cannon for maximum yield. Discharge." "May the Emperor guide our aim." The surfer's silver trail appeared on the display, moving to intercept the hive ship at velocities that strained the cogitator's ability to track. For the first time since arriving in this universe, he would be forced to take direct, offensive action. As he approached the massive bioship, the surfer felt the psychic pressure of the hive mind's attention focusing upon him with terrible intensity. Unlike mortal minds with their individual thoughts and emotions, this was a cold alien intelligence that recognized him only as biomass to be consumed, or an obstacle to be eliminated. It did not know fear or mercy or doubt, only hunger, and the endless imperative to feed, multiply, and evolve. When the surfer destroyed the hive ship and sealed the warp rift, he believed the battle was won. But in the grim darkness of the far future, no victory is final. And sometimes the greatest cost of salvation is not death, but memory.